All right, in this video, we're going to look at how to peer review a simple report and what to look for when you're peer reviewing your simple report. First thing is we're going through the simple report checklist. It's looks like this, and this is what I'm going to be reading and going off of to make sure that they've done that. As you've done these things, or as you do these things on someone else's paper, just make sure that you check them off for them on the hard copy that you were given earlier. All right, so here we are back on an example of a simple report. The first thing is you need to have your name, section, and page number in the upper right-hand corner, and they've done that. Then each part of the report is in all caps. So meaning the title portion of the report is in all caps, and you can see that that is being done. They also need to be bold. They need to be followed by a colon. And if you go through all of these, you can see that these are all falling under those parameters. Here, however, you can see that the conclusion is not in all caps. So you would highlight this, hit the comment button, and you're going to comment that it needs to be in all caps. And hit the comment button, and then they'll be able to see this comment and resolve it if they'd like to. Hopefully they will. All right, now you go back up to the top. It says each part of the report should be single spaced with double space between the parts. That means this portion is single spaced. We have a double space here, and then single spaced again. Make sure they've done all those things. There should be no personal pronouns at any point in any part of the paper. It's I, we, you, he, she, it, they, things like that. So if they use those, you need to highlight them and tell them to change those. Check to see that all the spelling and the grammar is correct. The spelling should be easy because it should come up with red if it's spelled improperly. So here you go. If you see something like this, they probably spelled it wrong, and you need to inform them so that they can fix that. Just highlight the word and then comment on it. Then grammar is a little trickier. If you find something that you think is grammatically incorrect, just highlight it, hit the comment button, and type grammar. Or give them an example of what you think it might be changed to. The correct title needs to be in the effect of the IV on the DV format. This one follows that, so it's a good job. Each main word in the title needs to be capitalized. Looks like they forgot to capitalize second, so highlight, comment, and put caps so that they know to do that. Introduction. The introduction needs to have 3 parts. One is the rationale, and it needs to be cited. Here's the rationale. They did not cite it, so you can comment on that and tell them to cite the data that they've done there, or the information they've put there. Then you need the purpose. Here they have been quite explicit. You said the purpose of the experiment. The purpose of the experiment was, and then the hypothesis, the researcher hypothesized. So they did a good job there. No personal pronouns. Spelling and grammar looks good. Experimental design diagram needs to have all the parts that an EDD normally would. So you need to have title, hypothesis, IV, levels of the IV, pick a control, DV, repeated trials, DV, and then finally the constants. And they did this in the right format, and they have everything that they need to, so they did a good job there. Procedure, they need to have all the steps included and in enough detail so that another researcher could follow the steps and conduct the experiment. So read through their procedure, make sure that it could do, you could repeat the experiment from what they wrote. The results needs to have the data table. First, you need to have labeled a vertical column for the independent variable. And here they have the length of the string, and a labeled vertical column for the DV. They have just average, so really they should have included the frequency up here. So whenever there's a problem, just comment on it and tell them what they need to do. They need to have frequency. But other than that, everything looks good. They have a title for their data table, so that looks good. Then the results, it needs to have labeled the vertical column for the independent variable and the correct label and unit for the x-axis. Here's the label and here's our unit in parentheses, and the period in seconds over here. So they've done that properly for their x and y axes. They have a title for the graph, although this particular one needs to be probably in the format of the effect of the IV on the DV, which you guys probably already have done, so no big deal. And then you need to have a sentence. This is something that a lot of students forget to do. You need to summarize the graph in a sentence or two. It says graph summarized in sentence form and placed right below the graph. In this case, they wrote the graph of this function is not a straight line. In a straight line, the rate of change is the same across the graph. In this graph, the rate of change decreases as the length increases. So you'll need to say, or they will need to have said something along those lines for their graph. The conclusion has several parts. It needs to have a purpose. Usually they're quite explicit about it, the purpose of this experiment, what the major findings were, all right? So here they highlighted the major findings, the support of the hypothesis. The researcher's hypothesis was proved correct. So they've done that portion. How the findings compare to other researchers. So they have that, however, they did not cite it. So once again, this is an area where when you do find research online that supports the hypothesis, or excuse me, that supports the data that you've collected is the same as, or the data online is the same as the data you've collected, you need to make sure that you cite that. So tell them to cite it as well. The major findings for this experiment, they go through and talk about that. Looks like they have those and they're well written. And then explanation for the findings. This can be a little trickier because you have to know the science behind the findings. So some research may need to be done. They talk about F equals ma, Newton's second law, and how a pendulum follows that equation. So it looks like they have that as well in there. However, once again, they didn't cite it. So comment for them to cite their major findings. Then the recommendations for further study and an explanation for improving the experiment. So for further study, they have that here at the end, and an improvement. They've talked about how to improve it. So it looks like they've done all these different parts. This could be resolved here, this spacing issue. So comment on this and tell them single space. All right. Once you've done that, you've pretty much gone over the whole report. Now, it's going to take you longer to do it than for me to go through this because I know what I'm looking for, and there were very few mistakes in this paper. Try to do the best job you can peer reviewing for someone, and then that way they're going to have a better grade, and at the same time you're going to work hard. They'll work hard for you, and hopefully you'll have a better grade too. That's it.